Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. That's weird to say, considering this is the first time I'm hosting the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, but really excited to be here, and hope you're all doing well on this Monday morning. It's another Monday, but another opportunity to tackle the week and design and create something amazing. If you are tuning in live here on Behance, let me know in the chat who you are and where you're tuning in from. We've got Steve and Sam and General Kenobi. It's a great name. And Anika, I feel like Anika's here all the time and I still can't pronounce the name. I apologize. Biola and Susan and Megan and another Susan. We have got all the Susans in here. We've got Jack. Hey Jack, great to see you. Afrosia, Chad, Andre, Nourish. Everyone's throwing some boops in the chat. First time to see Howard out of XD. Yeah, so usually if you don't know who I am, my name's Howard Pinsky. I am a senior XD evangelist at Adobe, but as I'll show you in a moment, I started my career in Photoshop. I'll get to that in just a second. So we're gonna be running the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge over the next 9 days. So 2 weeks, Monday to Friday this week, and then Monday to Friday next week. And you have 9 challenges in total. We'll go over all that stuff in just a moment. We've got Cheryl from Mississippi, Andrea from St. Louis, Murray from Brampton, Ontario. I grew up not too far from there. Great to see you. Awesome. From London and Algeria. I love these streams. We have people from all over the world. We've got some from Chile. Wonderful. All right, so Daily Creative Challenge, Photoshop, different but exciting. Let's go ahead and hop over to my screen and we're gonna run through this entire thing and I'm gonna explain all the fun details. All right, so if you haven't participated in the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge yet, head on over to behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. We're gonna be running this from August 23rd, which is today. We're almost at the end of August. That's crazy. This year has gone by so quickly, all the way to September 17th. Now that may seem like a long time, but the active challenges are gonna be going on starting tomorrow until next Friday, and then we rerun these episodes. So those who might be beginners in Photoshop have a little bit of more time to rewatch some of the episodes and, fine tune some of their challenges, which is wonderful. I'm going to show you how to share some of that stuff in just a moment. So how does this all work? Well, every single day you're going to receive a challenge, Monday to Friday, except the first Monday, which is today, where we're going to go over the whole shindig, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks in Photoshop to kind of get you inspired and give you a little bit of a hint at what might be coming. You can go join us in our community chat. There's a link right over here, and that will direct you to Discord. So right now we have 2,073 people online. Well, that's the XD Discord. We also have an XD Discord, and we have an Illustrator Discord as well. But in the Photoshop Discord, we have 2,403 people online. There's a lot of you. So hop in here. You can get information about the daily challenges. You can see what's new in Photoshop. I'm going to show you a few of those things in just a moment. You can check out, you can ask questions, share tips and tricks, but more importantly, if you are participating in this challenge or previous challenges, you can hop into the feedback section right over here to the left, and you can submit your work. We've got some great, look, an orca. I love that. We've got some Nemo fish or clownfish, whatever they're called. I just know them as Nemo. This is cool. So I'm assuming last week there was a challenge all about fish, with, of course, Voodoo Val, who is incredible. She runs fantastic challenges. And speaking of previous challenges, you can actually scroll down on this page and you can see basically all the challenges. Like I can just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. We have a lot of challenges. So if you're a beginner and you want to really get guided through and get challenged on how to use Photoshop, scroll down. We've got a lot of great stuff. More people hopping on in. Frank and Susan again and Chad. Some new faces, familiar faces. Nice to see some of the people who watch my XD streams kind of hanging out in the Photoshop streams, hopefully learning something as well. So you can watch us live. So I am live at 9 o'clock Pacific time every morning during these challenges. And then you can share your work either in Discord, like I just showed you a moment ago, or you can hop onto Behance and you can share it there with the keyword Photoshop Daily challenge. And what's cool about this is you can also browse what other people are creating using that hashtag as well. It allows us to see it, allows members of the community to see it. It is wonderful. And Norch says, I tried to scroll to the end of the list once. It was months ago and I'm still scrolling. Yeah, we have a lot of content, all completely free. Not just Photoshop, but XD and Illustrator. And we had a Premiere Daily Creative Challenge this morning. So if you're into video, definitely check that out. All right, so before we hop into Photoshop, starting tomorrow, every day, you are going to receive a new challenge. They're going to unlock on this page, and every challenge is going to be a little bit different. They don't build upon each other, but we're going to cover things like select and mask and liquefy and creating photo compositions. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to show you a hint of that in just a moment. Now, I know a lot of you in the chat were kind of confused or surprised that I'm hosting a Photoshop challenge. Hey, Shauna, great to see you. Shauna, I believe, is going to be hosting the next stream with Mike Jones, so definitely check that out if you're interested in all sorts of typography stuff and design and all sorts of fun stuff. They're very talented people. So yeah, a lot of you were surprised, but you might be surprised to know that I started my career as a Photoshop instructor. So over here's my YouTube channel. Most of my content, if not all of my content now, is XD related, but if we scroll far enough, you will find some Photoshop stuff right down here. Basically from here down is all Photoshop. A lot of it's kind of old, but if you take a look here, just for fun, because we have some time, my oldest videos, 14 years ago, I started uploading Photoshop tutorials. I'm not gonna click on them because they are terrible and embarrassing, but they're there if you wanna really check them out. Now, as we're participating in these Photoshop challenges, we're gonna be using a lot of assets and images and all sorts of things. If you don't have any of your own, Adobe Stock is a fantastic resource. We also have Adobe Stock free library. So if you go to stock.adobe.com/free, we have free videos, free photos, free vectors, a bunch of different categories. So if you want something specific to use in these challenges, let's say maybe a beach, right? There they are, beaches, or sunset. And we've got some sunset. All of these are completely free, which is wonderful. You just hit that license button, it downloads to your computer, you can save it to a library, and you're good to go. So we're gonna be talking more about that as these challenges progress. Now, one more thing I wanna mention before we hop into Photoshop. Adobe MAX is coming up very soon, and I actually have my MAX t-shirt. Well, some of it might be green, so you can't see some of it. But I'm gonna be hosting a few sessions at Adobe MAX this year. Head on over to max.adobe.com. Registration is open, completely free and completely virtual this year again, which is great. We have some amazing sessions. I believe we have over 400 sessions. So if you hop into sessions at the top, you can browse through some featured sessions, and there's me. In the UI and UX section, I'm going to be hosting the What's New in Adobe XD session. We have sessions for 3D and collaboration, education, graphic design. The list goes on and on and on. All right. Someone says sky replacement. Yes, I'm going to be showing you sky replacement in just a moment. And speaking of sky replacement, we have some updates on sky replacement. But you know what? Let's go ahead and hop into Photoshop. And I'm gonna go through a few things. Everyone's excited about Adobe MAX. Yes, Ted is already registered, which is wonderful. And again, completely free, which is great. And of course, as always, we're gonna have some pretty large updates at Adobe MAX. I don't know personally what's coming for Photoshop. I'm sure we have some pretty big things, but for Adobe XD, we have some fun stuff as well, which is what I'm focusing on. But I have to imagine Photoshop's gonna have some pretty big updates, not just for the desktop, but iPad as well, which is great. So we're in Photoshop, and this is a sample of what you're gonna be getting every day for the next 2 weeks. You're gonna be getting a template every single day, and it's gonna look something like this. On the left-hand side, we have this card that introduces who I am and also the prompt. So, it's going to tell you, let's say select and mask, for example. It'll say something like, today's challenge is to select and mask to extract objects from the background. Norsh is saying, is Max free this year? Yes, it is. It absolutely is free. We want to make sure that people were still safe. We're still very much in an active pandemic, so you know what? It's free. So hang out, have fun, soak in all those updates, and it'll be a good time. And then there might be some bonus tips as well in this template. And then if we are using assets from the community, we're going to have some credits at the bottom. And then over to the right in all of the templates, you're going to find some practice files, which could be an image like this, or we're going to find inspiration. So if we're not going to be using practice files or existing assets, you might see some inspiration to kind of get you going and get you excited about whatever it is we're going to be creating. Chris says, your new pup is adorable. Thank you, Chris. I think I recognize you from Twitter, obviously from previous streams as well, but I think you commented on something on Twitter, I think it was like yesterday. So I did post this. This is our new pup. We just rescued him. His name is Oswald, and he's missing a leg. He's about 1 year old. He had a pretty traumatic first year of life, and thankfully we were able to rescue him. Well, yesterday was technically the adoption day, but we've had him as a trial just to make sure we were right for him for about a week. And he's just the loveliest thing. It's amazing how dogs can go through such trauma and then turn around so quickly and just, have a forever home, which is wonderful. Now, the reason I have this dog here, not just to show off our new pup, but I want to show you the sky replacement feature. We've had sky replacement in Photoshop for a while, but we've had some updates to it. The actual engine is just about the same, but we now have the ability to import more skies, and also we have the ability to import presets, which is great. So again, I have this image of a dog, and this is actually a smart object. We're going to talk more about smart objects in, I believe, challenge 4, possibly. I think. I don't remember, but we'll see. We're definitely going to be talking about smart objects. They're wonderful. So what I want to do here is replace the sky. Now, I do have a nice blue sky in the background, but I want something a little bit more exciting. So what I can do is, with this layer selected, under the edit menu, we have our sky replacement feature. Again, it's been here for a while, but we did make some updates in the latest version of Photoshop. And if I click on the down arrow here and then the gear icon, hey Andrew, great to see you. We have the ability to import skies, not just from images that may exist on our computer, and I've already done that, but also sky presets. And if I hop over to Safari for a second, when you click on that link, you're going to be taken here. And you can download sunsets and spectacular images with clouds and orange skies and things like that, night skies, blue skies, storms, and then we have some fantastic artists and photographers down at the bottom who took many of these photos. And you can import these directly into Photoshop to get you going. And what's cool is Photoshop will automatically detect the sky in the background. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this for a second. I'm going to go back to me for a moment. I posted about the update on Twitter not too long ago. And naturally, there were some photographers who were upset that a feature like this exists. Now, I want to make it clear that this isn't meant to replace photography. It'll never replace photography. This is really meant for photo composition artists, or someone who, a wedding photographer, for example, can't really do much about the sky at a wedding. You have a set date, you've been waiting for that date for an entire year, maybe even more. It's overcast. What can you do? You can't reschedule the wedding because the sky doesn't look very good. In those situations, you might want to turn to a feature like this just to kind of give you a different mood to your photos. Maybe you were looking for something very specific and it just physically was not possible to create something like that. So sky replacement can definitely help in a situation like this. So let's go ahead and try this out. Blue skies, for example. In the original, if you remember, if I can turn this preview off, it was a nice blue sky, right? I did make some tweaks in Lightroom, but you might want some clouds, right? And you can kind of move this down, and now you have some clouds. And there are a few sliders that you can use. Right over here, you can shift the edge a little bit, and you can see what that does, right? It kind of pushes it in, right in this area here. It pushes it into the foreground. So it kind of blends it in a little bit. And of course you can use fade edge to fade that a touch as well, just to give you a more natural look. Then you can adjust things like brightness. Turn that up or down. I think it looks pretty good up. You can adjust the temperature. A lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. You can make it warmer, you can make it cooler. You can also adjust the foreground adjustments. And this is kind of cool, especially once you start getting into some of those spectacular skies. And I'll show you that. So color, you're not going to see much of a difference because the original sky was blue, right? So if I scroll down and let's go for the spectacular ones, and these ones will definitely change the mood of the photo. And you'll take a look when I do apply one of these, right? Watch what happens to the foreground. It was subtle, but the foreground did change. And here you're going to start to see some of the benefits of the first few sliders, right? I'm going to scale this up a little bit, just so I don't get too much of the mountains in the background. And you're probably also wondering, the mountains in the background of this image are very sharp and in focus, but the background of this image is blurred. And I'm going to show you how to deal with that in just a moment. How we're doing Photoshop DCC and not XD DCC. Yes, I'm switching things up a little bit, but I'll definitely be back for a XD DCC in just, who knows, probably around the max timeframe because we have some fun stuff coming up. So again, we can shift the edge, we can blur the edge a little bit, and we can fade the edge so it blends in with that background. But like I mentioned, we can also adjust the foreground. And that will definitely, as you can see, oh, there we go, right? So we have this orange background, and we want to, if we didn't adjust the color, it would just kind of look disconnected. But if we bump that color adjustment up, it'll automatically apply some adjustments to that foreground and leave us with a fairly more natural look. But again, that background is very much in focus. And some of the background here is not in focus. That is just not natural, right? So what we want to do is we can output this as new layers, right? And if I press OK, it's going to start doing its thing, and it's going to give us, let me hide this for a second. It's going to give us all of these different layers. So we have our sky replacement layer. We have this layer right over here, which kind of blends things in and gives some adjustments. And then we have an adjustment layer here, which if I hop open the properties inspector, it's already applied some adjustments, but if we want to fine tune that, we can definitely do that. What's the theme of this month's DCC? So this month, there is no theme. Every challenge is going to be a little bit different. I know last time Val did a theme all about oceans and fish and things like that. Mine are going to kind of be all over the place. We're going to definitely touch on some various use cases for all sorts of things, gaming and photo editing, all sorts of fun stuff. It's going to be a good time. Now, again, like I mentioned, the sky in the background is in focus. This part, not in focus. So what we want to do is actually make the sky a little bit out of focus, right? And of course you have your adjustment layer here, which we are going to, mask. We're going to be talking a lot about masks as the time goes on, but we have a little bit of the tree from the original photo popping in there. It's not bad, but we might want to just get rid of it, right? So I do have my mask selected. I'm going to grab my brush, shortcut key B. I'm going to make sure the brush is on black. If you're not familiar with masks, as you're painting with your brush, black will hide, white will reveal. And of course, anything in between, like a gray, will kind of act as opacity, right? So if I take a black brush, I can enlarge it with my right square bracket key. What am I doing? Am I on the right tool? Probably not. Whoops. White, there we go. Bam, perfect. All right. So again, we want to make sure to blur this background. There are a few ways to do it. We could simply select the layer right here and then use an adjustment layer or use a filter. Sorry, I'm so used to working in Adobe XD, I might mix up some terminology. We could just hop into the filters and do our thing. The thing is, the way it's set up right now, this will be very destructive. So if we apply a blur as it is right now, we can't go back unless we undo. But if we close the document, open it up again, that's basically it. So what we'll want to do, and again, we're going to talk more about smart objects, but we want to convert it to a smart object, which is essentially going to take those layers with the mask, combine it into one. And if you had multiple layers selected, it would do the exact same thing. It would take all those layers, combine it into one, and it's going to kind of keep those layers to the side for safekeeping. So you'll be able to apply things like adjustment layers and filters and keep them non-destructive. So if I hop up to the filter menu, I can go down to blur and Gaussian blur, for example, or I can use the blur gallery. In this case, we might not need the blur gallery, but let's try it out. Let's try a field blur. And you're gonna take it, oh, look at that. Just like that, it already looks dramatically better because our background more or less now matches the blur in the foreground. And of course, I can grab this handle right over here and I can adjust the blur. I can make it less blurry. That's not bad there either. It kind of blends in really nicely. I can make it more blurry. And what I can also do, because we're in a field blur, we can actually kind of fade the blur. So if I move this little handle right to about here, and then I can add another handle maybe up at the top. This isn't the best example for this because we're working with a very small area, but this one I can blur a little bit more. Let's try about 16. And then down here at the bottom, I can blur it slightly less, right? So it's gonna fade. So it'll go from 4 to 16. And of course, if we had more space, it would blur really nicely. I'm gonna blur this a touch more. And I probably don't need this one. Delete that. There we go. And that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply this by pressing OK at the top. And what you're gonna notice inside of the layers panel, we now have a smart filter attached to our original layer, which is again, a smart object. So completely non-destructive. Anytime in the future, if I want to make changes to this, I simply double click and then I can make my changes, right? Hey, Sam, great to see you. Love seeing you. What did Sam say? I love seeing you on Photoshop where it all started. Indeed, like I explained at the beginning, I started my career teaching Photoshop and we've returned full circle, which is fun. It's nice to kind of revisit that from time to time. So again, that is sky replacement. Very quick overview of that in Photoshop. Another feature I wanted to touch on, here's the dog as well, but here's a weird photo of me. I hate taking photos of me. I'm not very photogenic, but the reason I brought this up is because we have the neural filters. I believe that was released possibly at last Adobe MAX. I don't remember the timeline exactly, but these are getting fun. And you know, when it first came out, it was in beta. There are still some in beta, as you can see down at the bottom, but there's a lot you can do with these neural filters. Of course, you can smooth some skin. So if I turn this on, let me zoom on in here, right? You may have seen, if I hold down, press that, right? There's the before and the after. It did an okay job. And of course you can fine tune it over here to the right. Style transfers. But what's kind of cool is we have these smart portraits, which really lets you go crazy with some of this stuff. So I'm going to turn this on. And you know, a lot of people, when I take photos, they're like, why aren't you smiling? One, I don't like my smile, but we can kind of make me smile, right? It's probably not going to look completely natural all the time, but these neural filters are getting better and better with every release. So if I go ahead and turn happiness on, and I'm going to go ahead and crank up this slide. You know what? Let's go ahead and go to 50, right? Fairy says skin smooth. No. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm not a big fan of skin smoothing, but I know a lot of people in the beauty industry and you know, just people in general. Some people like to smooth out their skin a touch. So something like that is there. There are obviously many ways to do it. God, that's terrifying. But with, you know, with some fine tuning, you can take someone who's not smiling and make them smile. Let's turn up surprise and see what that does. In general, these are definitely fun filters to use. In some cases, they'll get you a pretty good result, but you know, let's turn these off. Let's actually explore some facial age. I'm gonna crank that up. I'm gonna make me look much older. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's thicken out my hair. I don't know why we're doing this. We're not going to be touching on neural filters during these challenges, so we're going to be having some fun. I can change my head direction if I want to. And all of these are running in the cloud, which is why some of them take a little bit longer to apply. We can control light direction. We can, you know, move my eyes off to the side. Neural filters are a lot of fun, and depending, oh my gosh. Now I'm just looking shady. Depending on the images that you're using, you'll definitely get better results. Depth blur is kind of fun. If you want the background a little bit more blurred, it's going to recognize the subject in the foreground, and it's going to blur the background. As you can see up here, it is processing in the cloud right now. So it's using image detection and subject detection, things like that. And it's going to, in just a moment, hopefully, it's going to blur out the background. And then down here at the bottom, you can control focal distance and things like that. In this case, it doesn't look like it did a very good job, but in general, it works pretty well. So, I don't know. If you want a fun challenge before the actual challenges start tomorrow, hop into the neural filters. Neural filters. I don't know why, but it's a weird word to pronounce. Maybe I just can't say things properly. Take your photos, hop them in. I don't even know. I'm just gonna play around with this. Pop them in Photoshop, apply some neural filters. I'd love to see it. Tweet. I don't know. I don't even know. We're definitely not going to cover this during the challenges, but it's fun, right? And if you fine tune it, you can get some actually good results. Tweet it at me, at Pinsky. I'd love to see your crazy results. And that is going to just about do it. So again, tomorrow, challenge number 1, behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. It's going to unlock right here sometime in the morning before the stream, and then during the stream at 9 o'clock Pacific time, we're going to be covering all this good stuff. I'm going to walk you through the process. Great for beginners, and hopefully you'll learn something along the way. So that is just about going to do it. Big thank you to everyone who has tuned in. Sam and Stony and Bliss and Nourish and Susan and Bruce, Afrosia, Andre, Lena, Christy. Great to see you all. I'm going to be back tomorrow with challenge number 1, the official first challenge. Stick around. Shauna Lynn and Mike Jones is coming up to talk all about typography and graphic design and vintage inspired Southern typography. That's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you all next time.